Good evening, everyone. This is the CEC15 May calendar meeting. It is May 31st, 2022, and I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:44 p.m. I'll turn the floor over to Antonia to do the roll.
Okay, Camille Cazzaretti,
Present.
Antonia Ferraro, yes, I'm here. Tia Shellsteed. I did not see, oh, I see her now. I admit all. Tia Shellsteed, are you here?
Here.
Okay, great. Vincent Liu,
Present.
Nana Poku Ajikum,
Present.
Alfred DeAngelis,
Present.
Joseph Alexander,
Present.
Yvonne Bonda.
Present.
Okay, Nancy Randall,
Present.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka,
Present.
Nakia Muhasa Brown,
Present.
and Jared Moser. I did not see Jared in the waiting room. Okay, so. All right, we have quorum. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the District 15. Oh, wait, I have to allow the interpreters to introduce themselves. Interpreters, please introduce yourselves. Thank you.
হ্যালো, দিস ইজ ফারহানা, বাংলা ইন্টারপ্রেটার। আজকের অনুষ্ঠানটি যদি আপনারা বাংলায় শুনতে চান,
Hello, this is Paula Santiago, Spanish interpreter.
And could the Mandarin interpreter please introduce themselves?
Hi, this is the Mandarin interpreter. 大家好，我是中文翻译。
Okay, great. That's everybody. So thank you so much for coming to the District 15 Community Education Council meeting tonight. We appreciate your time and we're glad you could join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city, plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district, and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected by parents in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the Brooklyn Borough President, and we have 1 high school student member. CEC15 is a state mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high quality education that benefit all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. CEC15 serves 35 elementary and middle schools and 1 high school. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Education. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. We actively seek input and feedback from the public and encourage you to visit our website, cecd15.org. Take a look at our Facebook page and write to us about any issues you may want to address or learn about. All of our names and contact info are available on our website. And I will just add another reminder to the chat to everybody to please sign the attendance sheet. The link is in the chat, and I will turn it over to our parliamentarian, Joe Alexander.
Thank you, Antonia. Effective April 15, Governor Hochul signed Executive Order 11.6 extending virtual access to public meetings under New York State's Open Meetings Law, which allows New Yorkers to virtually participate in local governing meetings until the state of emergency for COVID-19 expires on June 14th. As a result of recent amendments to the open meeting laws, Citywide and Community Education Council can continue to hold virtual meetings and/or hybrid meetings until June 14th. After that date, councils will no longer be able to hold fully remote meetings, but may choose to hold hybrid meetings provided certain requirements are satisfied. Tonight's meeting is taking place remotely and will include a public comment period so that we may allow for additional feedback from our families and school community members. You may leave your camera on, or for your own privacy, if you prefer, you may use audio only during the comment period and throughout the meeting. For rules of engagement, when you comment, please respect the privacy of others. Please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, you may add comments to the chat or raise your hand to speak. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. It is possible that not every question will be given time, so the best way to get your question answered is always to email us at the email address I'll drop in the chat box. Thank you, and over to you, Camille.
Thank you so much, Joe. So welcome, everyone. Good evening. I'm Camille Passaretti, the president of CEC15. I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight. I see a lot of new names in the chat, so welcome if you haven't been here before, and we hope that you will participate in this evening's conversation. I want to also give a shout out to City Council person Shahana Hanif, who's here with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get the meeting started, I want to acknowledge the lives that were lost in the Texas school shooting last week. It's impossible to know or even try to comprehend the pain that these families are feeling and facing. I would just like to ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Please know that the Department of Education is doing everything in their power to make sure that something like this does not happen in our schools. If you're on our mailing list, you would have received the email that was sent this weekend and the videotaped discussion that we had with the Director of Safety, Mark Rampersant at the DOE. Please make sure that you know the rules around safety in our schools. This is very, very important. As we continue to grow our school-wide enrichment programs in District 15, we can see now more than ever that the social emotional well-being of our students, staff, and families is really critical. So if you or your child are feeling depressed or angry, please reach out to someone that can help. The Child's Mind Institute is a great resource, as well as New York City Well, NYC Well. That's a free service that is designed to help New York City residents. They are there to listen and help with problems like stress or depression, anxiety, or drug and alcohol use. And given all of the hardships and loss that so many of us have faced, it's important to recognize and prioritize self-care. So please reach out if you need anything at all. We are approaching the end of the school year, and celebrations and graduations are being planned. Please make sure that your child is protecting themselves with either a COVID vaccination, booster, or mask. The spread is on the rise. We want to make sure that our schools remain safe spaces. There is a lot of anticipation around high school placements right now. Many of our 8th grade families are waiting patiently, but this announcement is coming very, very late in the year. Typically, everyone would have received their high school placement by now. And so rather than our 8th graders feeling excited about graduation, they are stressing about which schools they're going to be attending in September. So right now, we haven't really been given any explanation for this delay, and we'll be writing to Chancellor Banks to request that admissions letters be sent out this week. It's really not reasonable or fair to keep students and families waiting this long. Another thing that you all should know about and keep an eye out for, you might be receiving a letter in the mail regarding the Illuminate data breach, which occurred at the beginning of this year, sometime between January and February of 2022. So we did learn that no financial information or social security numbers were affected in this incident. If your child's records were part of the breach, you'll be receiving an enrollment code in the mail for 2 years of free identity protection services through a DOE vendor called IDC. This is only available for the child that had the breach, not for the entire family, not for adults. These last 2 weeks have been really chaotic, trying to organize and host a superintendent candidate forum, which has been forced on us by the Department of Education and Mayor Adams. I want to thank those who did show up and offered feedback. We have a resounding outpouring of positive feedback to maintain our current superintendent, who has done a beyond extraordinary job at supporting our schools and our students throughout the pandemic. You can still submit feedback until tomorrow at 3 p.m., and that feedback will go towards the superintendent evaluation and towards the C37 process, which is happening tomorrow night. Members of the CEC President's Council, Title I chair, and union representatives will be allowed to participate in the interview process for the hiring of the superintendent. We will be making a suggestion to the Deputy Chancellor of who we would like to represent this district starting on July 1st, but DC Blackburn will have the final decision. This is happening not because we are unhappy with our superintendent, but because of mayoral control. Only in New York City can a mayor decide what is best for a district. CEC15 will continue to advocate for parent voice and make every effort to prevent this from happening again. You can write to your senator or assembly person tonight to tell them that we want an end to mayoral control. It's going to be expiring June 30th, but they will be voting in the next day or two. It is not too late to say no to mayoral control. We advocated strongly to have a PEP parent member position, and we were able to have more voice on the panel for education policy, thanks to many of your phone calls and letters. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much. Just two more things. We have a contract for excellence presentation scheduled for June 14th. The presentation documents are posted on the DOE's Info Hub website. You can review them in advance and come with your questions, or write to us and we'll share your thoughts during our meeting. And lastly, we moved our calendar meeting to June 21st so that we could align the end of our year with the last day of school. So we hope you will join us for either or both of these meetings. And I'll just ask my fellow council members if they have anything that they would like to share. And if not, I will hand the floor over to Nicole Lancelotti. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share?
Good evening, everybody. It's Anita. I made it.
Welcome. Superintendent Scott. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So thank you so much. I sent you the PowerPoint both as a PDF and as a regular, so I hope somebody can put it up.
Nicole
And I
just
will-
re-entered the room, so I will give her co-hosting.
She can't do it. She's on a phone. So
Oh,
is there
Nope,
anybody from?
I'm here and I'm at my
Oh,
computer,
good.
so I can do it.
okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
I just readmitted you, so let me give you co-hosting privileges.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Before we begin, could we just check in with Superintendent Ross as well if she's going to need screen sharing, because I'll
Oh,
try
okay,
to.
I'll give her that. I'll just give it to her.
Hi, yes, I should be home, so I think I'll be able to make it, Jamil. But I may have to need somebody to share, but I think I should make it. Thank you for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So I am so glad to see you, and quite literally, it was almost a miracle that I made it here. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you. I will be as brief as possible. I know you have a packed agenda. And as soon as we can share the PowerPoint, there's Nicole, perfect timing. It is full of information, some basic and some more profound than others. So quickly, if we go to the agenda. Perfect. So I want to take a few minutes to honor the victims of gun violence. When I was preparing this agenda, it broke my heart to say that last month we talked about gun violence as well in terms of the school shooter, the subway shooter, and now we're talking about even more gun violence. And to say this is shocking is incredible, but we will pursue this in a moment. We have today literally hot off the presses, the new school calendar for 2022-23. People are very excited. I will share the link, and we will also share the start and end days of school just so that you have them. We will talk about Summer Rising and give you some updates, some health updates for COVID, proms and dances updates. There is a new DOE data and communication portal. This is Asian American Pacific Islander Month, as well as Jewish Heritage Month. And the last thing I'm going to share with you is our very exciting District 15 Poetry Slam that will be in person and is coming up at the end of the month. And we're very excited about that. And then, of course, questions and answers. So next slide, please. I have to say that both of these events hit me incredibly hard. And they hit me incredibly hard because they made it very clear that from one person's anger, angst, racism, people have died. Many people have died. And this is nothing new. But to have it in such a short span of time and to have young children who could be in our 4th grade, killed, elderly people who were shopping in a supermarket and did nothing but be Black, is to me unbelievable. So why am I even talking about this? Because I want you to understand this is why we focus, at least I focus, on diversity, on the importance of getting children from their early childhood to come together as people and see each other as people and value each other as people. And to reassure you that we take every comment, every innuendo, every Facebook posting that we hear of, everything incredibly seriously. These were 2 young men who posted stuff and then proceeded to do it. And there are lots of people, I just read today that there were people who were posting things all over the country. And it's heartbreaking to me. We are profoundly committed to valuing each and every one of our children and empowering them to value each other. One of the things that came out of our DESA work is that we had schools that said, yes, we knew which kids needed extra support and we were already giving them extra support. I want you to know that this is the fact that one child could do so much damage reiterates to me the importance of impacting every single child Every child has to value human life. Every child has to be cared for so that they value human life. Every child has to have their trauma dealt with so that this is something they know they can bring into school and seek help. And one of the things that I really want to say is that impresses me is that our children care for each other, and they have developed such strong relationships with their teachers and with other adults in the building that they will come to them if they have a problem, but also if they hear that a friend is having a problem. This is how we work to ensure that social emotional learning is a priority for everybody. Our principals are incredibly good at this. Our guidance counselors, our social workers, but our paras, our teachers, our custodians, everybody cares about our kids, our kitchen ladies, our community workers, our parent coordinators. There isn't one person in the school who doesn't impact children and interact with children and who cares deeply about them. I cannot tell you how many principals are feeding kids dinner because they're picked up late, about how many principals are advocating for families in homeless shelters, in domestic violence shelters. I cannot tell you what the lives of some of our children are like. It's heartbreaking, but we are working to make sure that each and every child feels welcomed and loved in school and is happy to be there and is supported and is not treated punitively, but is treated with a deep understanding of how can we make this better and how can we help them to understand the consequences of your actions. There is a big difference between that focus and what I believe these young men dealt with. I have to believe that because I never want any of this ever to happen here. And I don't want our children in the future to have to worry about it when they're parents. We have to change this cycle now. And that is important. And I've heard our mayor talk about doing things about guns. The governor has talked about raising the age of guns. I have my own personal political beliefs about this, as many of you do. And I'm not going to get into that. But I am going to say that it is super important that from the earliest age, from little ones, from our little 3Kers, that they know how important it is to love and care for each other. And that's what we're working on. So thank you for letting me have my little soapbox moment. And please know that your children, encourage your children to talk to you, to talk to their teachers if they hear something, and know that we investigate every single allegation, no matter if it's a suspicion or not, and we reach out to parents immediately. So please know that we follow up intensely. Next slide, please. Okay, very quickly, I'm sure you know this, but I wanted to put it in case it got lost in the weeds. There are 3 student non-attendance days coming up, the 7th, the 9th, and the 28th. These are days where teachers do professional development, clerical work, planning. So please know that the 7th, the 9th, and the 28th are those days. They're student non-attendance days. And this doesn't count Juneteenth, which is a holiday and which is our first time celebrating Juneteenth. And we're very excited about that. Next slide. The school calendar for 2022-23 is available on the website. It is available in 10 languages. And basically, please go and look at it. But for the first year of the school year is September 8th. It's a Thursday. And the last day of the school year next year is June 27th, and it's a Tuesday. And it is the last day for students. So if you're planning vacations or camp, this will help in both ends. and I hope it is helpful to you. Please go and look at the calendar. I know people have been waiting a long time for this, and I know your principals have been waiting a very long time too. So we're grateful. Next slide. Okay, summarizing. The final window for enrollment will open on June 13th. There are people who are unenrolling, and the principals in charge and the CBOs will receive data, guidance, and next steps about families who are unenrolling, who have changed their mind or going away or whatever. Then they will be given the process for filling available seats and family-facing messaging to explain the process. Once Summer Rising begins, walk-in enrollment will be possible at sites that still have availability, and details will be shared in June. But this is not yet. So the new enrollment window opens June 13th, and you will be getting more information about that in June and in July once the Summer Rising program opens. Remember, it opens July 5th. You will be able to walk in and enroll at sites that have a seat. Next slide, please. Okay, this is something that has to do with alternative drop-off for busing. There is a cutoff of June 8th for families who have curb to school or specialized transportation and have requested one-way transportation to an alternative location instead of going home. So for example, if parents are asking that they be dropped off at grandma's house in the afternoon, as opposed to, and are being picked up at home in the morning, but going to grandma in the afternoon, you must fill out the form by June 8th. So please be aware of that. They will have received an email, so please follow up. It's important. Okay, just a quick overview again of the Summer Rising program. The Summer Rising program, K-5, is a combination academic enrichment engagement camp style fun program that will run for K-5 students. And by K-5 students, we mean their current grade, not what they are going into in September, but their current grade. If they are K-5, they are welcome in the program. The morning, 4 days a week from 8 to 12:30 will be academic, 8 to 12, 12:30. They will have lunch, and then they will transition to the CBO-led enrichments and trips and activities that are styled very much on a camp program with sports and the arts and trips that children can benefit from. And remember, this is learning too. Please do not think that this is just babysitting, because the more opportunity children have to interact with each other, the more opportunity children have to go places and try new things, the richer their vocabulary becomes. It helps them with learning. It helps them with reading. This is a really lovely opportunity for children, and many, many parents have taken advantage of this, and we are glad that they are. There are children who are mandated to come, and there are places for them too, and the principals are working on that right now. July 5th is the start for all of the Summer Rising programs, no matter what grade level. The K-5 program runs 7 weeks through August 19th. And this is amazing in that they will have all of this time on Friday, and every day after lunch, they will be working with the CBO. Friday is an all CBO day, and that last week, the week of August 19th, that week is all CBO. It's like all camp. So it's very exciting. For 6th to 8th graders, they absolutely have the same structure, taking courses they need. But for 6th to 8th graders, their session ends a week earlier. They do not have an all CBO session. Theirs ends August 12th. Again, it goes until 6 p.m. And children who have 12-month IEPs or are District 75, they go from 8:10 to 2:40 as they always have, a similar 6.5 hour day. And they are welcome to join the after-school activities. The kids who have extended school year, ESY children, same concept, as do the ASD Nest kids. Kids who are ASD Nest will go July 5th through August 1st from 8 a.m. to 12 and receive their services as they are supposed to. There is an opportunity to join the CBO at the site. Next slide. So the high school programs will go from July 5th to August 12th, and many of them will be virtual. They are flexible. They have the opportunities to take courses that are virtual or the opportunities to take courses in person, and it depends on the school. And again, same structure, 12-month IEPs, 8:10 to 2:40, etc. Next one, please. This is a quick overview of what we have in D15 and where the schools are. So I'm going to be very quick about this, but please reach out to your school if you don't know where they are assigned, because they are clustered. So PS1 is a cluster and it is housing PS1 and PS516. The principal in charge will be Wanda Lopez Ramirez, who is the principal of PS1. PS676 is the site in Red Hook for the elementary school. It is housing PS676 and PS15, and Priscilla Figueroa, the principal of PS676, is the principal in charge. MSHS 497 or BHS has 497, 51, and 447, and Neil Singh is the principal in charge. PS 146 is housing PS 146, PS 29, and PS 39, and Diane Castellucci is the principal in charge. MS 136 and MS 821, because their CBO works out of Sunset Park High School, are located in Sunset Park High School for the summer, and their principal is Victoria Antonini, who is the principal of Sunset Park High School. PS 24 is housing 172, 24, 295, and 131, and Tina Hatchmakalis, who is the principal of PS 131, will be there as principal in charge. PS 32 is housing PS 32, PS 58, PS 124, and PS 118. Denise Watson is the principal in charge. PS 38 is housing PS 238, 261, 321, 107, and Pascal Pradel, principal of 38, is principal in charge. MS 88 is housing MS 88, MS 443, MS 442, and MS 839. Noreen Mills will be principal in charge. At PS 130 is housing PS 10, PS 154, PS 230, and of course 130. Liz Garraway will be principal in charge. Our high school, Brooklyn High School for the Arts, is a standalone, and Danny Vecchiano will be principal in charge. And lastly, PS 94 is housing 169 and 896, and Christina Gonzalez will be principal in charge. Please know that we are already in the planning stages and have had several meetings with our principals. We've assigned a person from the district to support them. We've already worked with them, and they are doing brilliant planning and are very eager to support each other and making sure that this doesn't fall just on one person. We want everybody to work together. So thank you, principals, for being absolutely amazing and gracious. Next slide. COVID. As you are aware, we are on orange alert for COVID. There are lots of cases. There has not been a change to the masking policy in that it is being mandated. People are encouraged to wear a mask in indoor settings, but it is not required. And the only place that we require masking pretty much is for the babies, but we are encouraging people to get vaccinated. Anybody over the age of 5 and over, can be vaccinated, including getting a booster shot. We are encouraging people to get tested frequently. I just tested myself last night because I was at a school, and it is easy, it is quick. Schools are giving each child 4 at-home tests per week. Testing is available free throughout the city. Please do not hesitate to use the tests. And of course, there are other precautions such as avoiding crowds, limiting gatherings to smaller numbers of people, increasing ventilation. Now that it's getting nicer weather, people are out more, which is wonderful. And of course, wearing a high quality mask. This is especially important for people who are at increased risk due to medical conditions or age, or if they're unvaccinated. So please follow up accordingly. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is in line with what we just talked about. The New York Department of Education is allowing students to attend proms and similar one-time end-of-year dances this spring, regardless of their vaccination status. This is for events held at school buildings. All chaperones are still required to show proof of vaccination. If a prom or year-end event is held in an outside venue, such as a catering hall or a restaurant or even an outdoor venue, they have to follow that venue's requirements, including proof of vaccination if it is required. So if your children are going to a restaurant or a catering hall for the prom, that venue sets the standard for what will be required. We strongly recommend that your child take one test within 24 hours prior to the dance and a second test 5 days after the event. If they experience symptoms in the days after, please help them take a test immediately. We also recommend that students and staff wear a high quality N95 or KN95 mask at the event as an added layer of protection. And I've seen some very fancy bejeweled masks that will go lovely with prom dresses. So feel free. Next slide. We now have a new one-stop shop, so to speak, and there's going to be more messaging and talking about this that will integrate all DOE systems, grades, attendance, messaging. This application will allow schools to create and send communications to families, students, and staff via email, text, and robocall. It will be available in August in advance of the first day of school, and there is more training and information forthcoming. So I will have more for you. Next slide. And now for something wonderful. Vincent, I saw what you put in the chat. You're 100% right.
Thank you.
This is Asian American Pacific Islander Month, and the Chancellor has announced that Asian American heritage and culture will be integrated into the curriculum and that they will be honored for their contributions and for what they've had to go through as a culture and the different cultures. And may I say that it I was at a presentation last week. I was at a presentation at PS 94. And our fourth graders were working with somebody from Brad Lander's office that sponsored a pilot. And you should be so proud. Our kids were amazing. They were blowing the people out of the water, and these were little fourth graders. They asked them if, well, are all Asian people the same? And they were able to answer in detail how they were not the same, and in detail why they were not the same. And they were able to talk about their concerns and contributions. It was amazing to listen to them, and our country and our community should be so proud of our children. They are light years ahead of us as adults. Fabulous. So congratulations, and please, because of COVID, many of our Asian and Pacific families have had terrible racist things said to them, and are a culture that is respectful of other people and doesn't say these things. But believe me, we've talked about it, and we need to be respectful of everybody's culture, but especially thinking this month that blaming people for something that they had nothing to do with and creating hate is yet another way of dividing us when we so need to come together and make a difference in our world. So we honor our Asian American and Pacific Islanders this month. Thank you. It is also, for those of you who may not know, Jewish American Heritage Month. To be honest, I didn't know, and I'm excited about it. And please realize that, again, cultures that have been discriminated against, cultures that are still discriminated against. We live in a world that likes to stereotype. We live in a world that likes to consider all people stereotypically, and that's not what people are. There are different kinds of people who practice Judaism all over the world, and we honor the contributions of Jewish American citizens and immigrants this month. So thank you for that. And a very exciting event is coming. Our 5th to 8th graders in District 15 are going to be part of our second Poetry Slam. And this one will be in person in the courtyard, June 8th at 4 p.m. at Borum Hill School for International Studies. And if you had the privilege, and I hope you did, of attending the virtual one last year, we literally had to have several nights because we had so many of our children doing beautiful poetry. And I have had the privilege of going school to school, and I have seen some of the writings our children are doing, and it's just incredible, and it is really profound. So this is a delightful event. Encourage your child to submit a piece, and we are very proud to continue this. And the theme of this year's piece is pride, not just because June is Pride Month, but also pride in who you are, in what you celebrate, in what your culture is, in what you're proud of. So this is an amazing opportunity for our children, which we are looking to expand as we come even further out of COVID. And with that wonderful news, I will open the floor to questions.
Thank you. First, please raise your hand, or anyone in the public that would like to make a comment or question for the superintendent. Before we do, we had, I saw one earlier. There's conflicting info about 8th graders doing summer rising. Is it that they just are finishing 8th graders, or what is the grade cutoff on that?
The grade cutoff is that they are finishing 8th graders.
Okay, thank you. So any questions or comments for the superintendent? I don't see any. So I'll move to CEC members. Camille?
Anita, I just want to say thank you so much for all of your hard work and devotion and dedication. We appreciate you. I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Any, okay. A. Edwards.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, I'm in a place that has music in the background, so I apologize for that. Anita, I'm really sorry that you have to go through this entire process to be able to fight for your job. I think it's insane. I'm doing whatever I can to be able to support you, and I feel like everyone else, whether it's the superintendency or not, needs to get together and stand up and fight and end this mayoral control or whatever this disaster is, because it could be any one of us at any time. You've done lots of things for me and my family. I've written everywhere that I can to prove who you are and authentic, realistic, and this is just like mind-boggling that we're still doing this. I am going to continue to fight for you, and if there's anyone that I have to go to, I will go to whatever length, because I think this is ridiculous that we're going through this. You've proven yourself for years, and based on the meeting that I attended, everyone pretty much was giving you like accolades and saying how wonderful you were. So I couldn't understand how they're actually trying to get your position. I heard from another district person that the CEC only holds a certain amount of weight in terms of the process to actually decide who's going to be the superintendent or not. And I think there's so much politics involved. My question is, I guess for the CEC, how much weight do we hold as parents to be able to make the decision? Or is this merely a process and a formality, but someone else is making the final decision?
So may I say thank you. It has been an absolute joy of my life to work in District 15 and to watch our principals come together as a community again and to support each other, and our children, watching our children grow is just a gift from God. It really is, if I can be religious for a minute. And I would love to continue the work, and no matter what happens, I know that our CEC and our principals will continue the work and do great work. I don't know how this plays out, to be honest with you. I just don't know. I am following the process, and I will continue to do so.
But don't give up, keep fighting.
Yeah.
I promise.
And I will say, as a parent as well, as a CEC member, you know, I'll just say that, like the chancellor, the CEC members, we don't work for the DOE. We're not paid to do any of the work that we do. And some of us, not me, I mean, I work as much as I can, but some of the CEC members put in like an additional full-time job at this. I wish I had that ability or energy. But we're not beholden to the chancellor or to the mayor, and they have treated this process as though we are. And for instance, you know, it's our responsibility to help choose the next superintendent. We do this forums. They anticipated that they could come on and just run the quote interview process that we just had. You know, that was their intention, to just, you know, have the formality of this meeting. It's over, the chancellor gets to pick. And then a week later, we're given the information just a few days before the interview process even happens. You know, I work with little kids. I see kids in therapy, and I can't cancel all of these kids' appointments to make this meeting, and it's just disgusting that they would rush this process through like this. Such disregard and disrespect to all of us. And icing on the cake is that they said in order to participate, we have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality agreement, that although I am a representative of parents and students, I don't work for the DOE, I don't owe the chancellor a damn thing, that I'm supposed to sign a confidentiality agreement in this closed door meeting, looking at resumes, that I'm not allowed to tell the parents that I talk to on playgrounds and in school functions and all of these things that I do. I'm not allowed to say, hey, the one that the chancellor ended up picking isn't the one that anyone voted for. Or I'm not allowed to say, you know, it looks like one of the candidates actually wasn't honest on their resume. You know, I'm not allowed to talk about any of that stuff. So I'm not satisfied with this process. We should all be disturbed by how it's gone, and hopefully it doesn't end up as bad as I think it's going to, but we'll see. Sorry, I usually don't talk that much. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay.
I can make a comment. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Nancy.
I will just say that to answer again, I'm sorry, I don't know, Ms. Edwards, what your first name is, but to answer your question as to how much the CEC might play a role in this selection, I will just mention what happened at the PEP meeting 2 weeks ago. The PEP, for those of you who don't know, is the Panel for Educational Policy. They are kind of like the school, the best way I can describe it is as if they are the school board for the city of New York. 9 members are appointed by the mayor, 5 members are appointed by the borough president, and 1 member is voted on by the CECs. And there was a discussion and then a vote on fair student funding. And that's a whole topic in and of itself. But my point is this, 25 people spoke up, most of us CEC members, and all 25 of us said that we did not want them to pass the fair student funding as it was. We wanted there to be changes to it before it was passed. And then the mayoral appointees, as well as the chancellor, were in favor of it being passed as it was, and ultimately it was passed. So I just say that to say that I don't know if our voice will actually have any influence with the chancellor's office, because we have seen that 25 CEC, mostly CEC members, can speak directly to the PEP and to the chancellor, and what we asked for did not go.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this stuff makes the news, but most of it, I mean, the issue Nancy's talking about, I've seen written up, but I don't know, it's not good.
Can I just add something?
please,
I would just direct people to the Action Network petition that is up in the chat that was put out by the Mural Justice Project. If you go up, if you scroll up a few comments, you'll see actionnetwork.org petitions, and you can sign the petition to support Anita.
Thank you, everybody. I can only reiterate that you have been an inspiration. And as I teasingly say to everybody, this is the hardest working CEC in the city. And Joe, you're not kidding. There are people who do this as if it was a full-time job. It's amazing. They are, the thing that has always endeared the CEC to me is they truly care about every child. You know, in a lot of organizations, it's about what can I get for my family? But this community cares about every single child in the community and fights for every single child in the community. And that is unbelievable. And that's what makes it so special and wonderful and inspiring. So thank you all.
Thank you. Let's, should we move to resolutions?
I think we have to go on to Janice Ross now.
Oh, I am so sorry. I totally missed Superintendent Ross. Superintendent Ross, I'm so sorry. Are you ready?
Yeah, no problem, no problem, please. There's a lot going on. So it's hard to follow Anita though. Anita, I love you, and it's always a pleasure to be in community with you and supporting District 15. You are an incredible leader. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to share my, if that's okay, I'm going to share. I do have a PowerPoint and let me get to it. Thank you for Camille for being patient. I was in a car and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but I did. And I'm home and I'm able to do this now. So let me just get to my sharing screen and I will be able to show you what we're doing and where are we and why isn't this not happening right now? Okay, here I am. Let's go. All right, so let me get into present mode. If anybody can see that. It is May 2022, and we are here to share with you all the amazing things that are happening in the high schools. I represent Brooklyn North High Schools, and you know all, we operate under the pedagogy of critical love. And I just wanted to share a couple of the wonderful things that are happening in the D15 high schools. Here are our goals. We always make sure that we share them with you and we'll be updating them. So this is the updates on attendance throughout our entire district. The district average is 86%. And as you know, we represent 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 23, and 32. And here is the attendance for District 15. We are proud to be in the high 80s in some of ours, and we know that we need to support the other schools below 80. Sunset Park is been one that we're working with closely. Cobble Hill, we've been working with very closely, and then Cyber Arts, who we have seen improved, and so we're happy to see over the 80% and then continue. And some of that work that we're doing is let me back for a second. Some of the work that we're doing in our attendance is that there are specific attendance points that my office has designated along with the points of the liaisons to the schools. And so they're meeting with these attendance teams and going over specifically what's going on and looking at schools intentionally about each child. And obviously we saw the, chronic absenteeism. I think that brought a lot of light to individuals that it's only 2 times a month that would put you in a chronic absentee category. So students that miss 2 days a month is what is categorized as then chronic absentee. So we really wanted to be sure that we're looking with schools and being very strategic of those students that have that somewhat could fall into that missing some school and catch them before they get into that chronic absenteeism. So we will continue to push. As of right now, the average is 84%. And the district-wide is 86, but our goal is to be at 95, 100% in all of our schools. Updates on our special education services. Again, this is our average. We are proud to say we are fully serving, and this is a absolute something that is very important to our superintendency and making sure that the students, what's on their IEP is matching what's on their program, and their services are aligned to one another. And so oftentimes it could just be a teacher not attached to the class. So it's not always that the service is not being provided, and sometimes it is. So it is our job, and I take that very personally as a superintendent, is to ensure we work with schools to make sure that our IEPs are aligned to the programs, and this is something that needs to be done. There's 2 times where we see a dip. We see it when we come in the beginning, and then when we switch programs again from January to February. So then we need to go back to ensuring that we're looking over everything specifically. These are, oh wait, let me just get to, I'm sorry. District 15, there's 83%. And you'll see some of the schools here where, again, you'll see a dip in some of our schools, and we work to make sure that they're moving up, and we're always meeting specifically around this. So we are in a better place, but not where we need to be. We need to be much higher, especially in 15. And so we're working with schools about that. And I can take questions about that. So last month, there were some questions about the L's in our schools. And so we wanted to answer your questions. So here is the total number of L's. Here is the total number of students. These are the enrollment in each one of our schools in District 15. These are the students, the L population. And then this would be the percentage of L's. And we wanted to have you look at this. I think there were some questions around the grade levels and where our students were coming in and how many were there. And then also this is a big, the percentage of L's. So what we do is obviously many of our schools are higher than the citywide percentage of L's. So that is for us, we target the schools that have a higher percentage of L's. And if you're looking at Sunset Park, there's 1,338 students, but 60% of that is an L population. So that's over 50%. So there is some serious, support that we're offering. And then again, cyber arts during the COVID year, they jumped with an L population. So we are making sure we're supporting them as well. And then the others also, but these are the 2 I wanted to point out. These are there's 16.9% of the L's, and then that not tested out is 9.9%. So here are our current L's. And this is again, these are all of our active students. We have a little bit less than 2,800 students. These are your former L's, these are your ever L's, and your never L's. And this is something that we gave you at the bottom here. So it gives you the definition of what the New York City Department of Education puts for former L's, ever L's, and never L's. And this is the percentage of what we have and what we currently are supporting in our schools. So I just wanted to make sure that we answered your questions. And if there's anything in particular, or if you want me to go deeper into a question, I will answer that at the end of this. But and I think everybody can see this, so I don't think I need to read. And I shared this with Camille as well, so you have the what the definitions are of those. Here's what we do to support our L's and MLLs. There is what we do for our schools across Brooklyn North is we ensure there's a common planning that the L student, the special ed student, and the regular ed, special ed teacher, L teacher, and regular ed teacher have a time specific to meeting and supporting lessons that meet the needs of those students, our L students and our special ed students. There are curricular adjustments for our Ls, deeper than just translating. It's really about meeting the needs of where our students are coming in from, where our students are, our L students are, and then reaching them at their level. So we partnered with Dr. Tatiana Klein, and that teachers were working with her on a monthly basis. Tatiana Klein talks a lot about translanguaging, and that's where you are supporting ELs with lessons and tasks that provide things in their language and then things in English. There's different ways to support, but that's one of the things that we've in partnership. We really like to see how we saw a increase in our graduation rate for our ELs. And so when I took over in 18, the L graduation has consistently raised, went up every month, every year. And I think a lot of it is we partnered with Tatiana Klein and really being specific of the work that we did with our L. We started with the principals being trained with Dr. Tatiana Klein, and how we identified the schools were those who were above city average for Ls in their school. Again, there's standalone entering Ls that there's specific needs for them with the L teacher, their scaffolds, the differentiation, multiple entry points, translated documents, obviously tech tools that support translation. QTEL strategies is something else that we strongly push and did a series with our L teachers. So we went deeper than just meeting with our principals. We actually, Dr. Tatiana Klein met with our teachers. And when you look at Dr. Tatiana Klein also met with the regular education teachers to work side by side with our L teachers, because we believe that there need to be a strong collaboration between the teacher, the L teacher, and the regular ed teacher to really provide the needs of the students. We use curriculums like English 3D, Read 180. We have after school programs. There's a full service path for graduation and post-secondary plans where we're ensuring that, students, again, this goes to both our L students and special ed students. We're working with how we're supporting them from grade to grade, their transition plans. And then of course we are a school of dual language programs, transitional bilingual education, and then we have English as a new language. Many of our different schools have different programs like this. And then the New York State Seal of Biliteracy is recognizes high school graduates who can listen, speak, read, and write in English and at least one other language. So we are very adamant about supporting our students in receiving that. And that is a seal that they get. And it's available to any graduating senior who has met the requirements for a diploma and could show their skill in English and another language. So our goal is to get as many of our students to graduate with the seal of biliteracy who are in our Ls and are able to have this, because it's really something that we want to, another way, and I think Anita was talking about this, right? Where we're supporting our young people in feeling, right? Feeling loved, feeling that we want to lift and rise our young people. And with things like this, they're leaving with confidence in who they are. We're acknowledging the work to be able to speak 2 languages. And so this is this falls sort of under the pedagogy of critical love. And then we have the DOE post-secondary readiness for ELs, and that is an enrichment program that provides post-secondary preparation activities explicitly for our current English language learners. And there's a plethora of different things. It's career exploration, engaging in college search processes, building a resume, but it's specifically for our L. And for more information, there's a link there around learning multi-language learners. So that was the piece that I wanted to make sure we shared for all of you, because I know that was something in April. And again, when I'm done, I can go back and answer anything. Here's our summer school sites. So the location of the summer school is here, and then different than some of the K-8, multiple schools may be in one campus. John Jay High School is hosting their campuses. So these high schools will be in their own campus. Dawn McConey, 15K419, will be in the K293 Junior High School. I think you talked about that, Anita, which is housed with digital tech, right? Sunset Park is in Sunset Park with their high school. And then Cobble Hill is in their high school. They may be some affiliations with some of them, but these are the high school. I'm giving you the high schools, and I know Anita shared with you the K-8 schools. So something we're excited about every year, we have been training and working with our parent coordinators. This year, right during COVID, we brought in our PTA presidents, and we've also invited some of our CEC presidents to some of these events. On June 13th, we'll have a culminating event where we will be honoring our parent coordinators, our PTA presidents, and we've invited our CEC presidents as well to talk about what we've done for the year, celebrating that, and then looking at what's going to happen next year in support of. So it's moving forward without forgetting, and it's a celebration of our parent leaders. So that is Monday in person at Franklin K. Lane, and that is under the work of the Family Leadership Institute and Educational Achievement Services with Consuela Kickbush. And if you haven't heard Consuela Kickbush,
Oh my goodness.
I highly recommend that you do. She has been working with our school for about 4 years now. Before the pandemic, we flew out my entire team, and we were all trained on Family Leadership Institute. We did a week-long training with her and parents in the area where she served in Texas. It was incredible. And so then we brought that back, and all of our parent coordinators were planned on it. I'm watching my time. And so that's just what's happening with that. Here's the FLI, here's the leadership. Every month we did, there was a training, and now it'll finish, and then we'll kick it up again in September. So we did the principal for a day. We did an MSK Solve the Silence. We hosted a self-defense course for all of our young women. Well attended, really great for our young women and anyone who's just interested in learning more about defense and identity. We have our PC meetings that we have every month. We did our Shark Tank. We have an MSK crowning ceremony that's happening. We have our June 9th MBK events to my son. Then we have an MBK Field Day rally. And when I talk about MBK, it's my brother's keeper. When I talk about MSK, it's my sister's keeper. And then with Anita, we're extremely excited to be celebrating Juneteenth. This year, it was my goal to ensure that all students took a Black History course at some point in their 9th grade or while they were in high school. We are ending this with a culminating event, and the work that our schools, we partner with BH365, which is a curriculum that was hands-on, that was music. And so it'll be in the field of boys and girls, and the students are presenting on the work that they did in that course. Our goal is obviously then to have we want to make sure that there's courses in all of these to honor and celebrate all of the different, lost my train of thought, different communities that we serve, but we recognize that for many years, Black history, unfortunately, has been left out and has not been provided in a manner that where it was equitable. And so we started with BH365 and then Juneteenth event. And then we have our June 21st annual Superintendent's Recognition Celebration, where we recognize, we've been doing this for 5 years now, the principal nominates anybody. And this again goes back to what Anita says. All of our schools have custodians. They have, you know, the lunch women and men, like anybody who has done something that has gone above and beyond to show love. We honor them. So the principal gets to choose one person, and every year we choose, you know, they get to choose different people. But it, again, it recognizes the hard work that so many of our people, our individuals are doing in school, and we wanted to make sure that they have a time that they're honored. And then in the chat, because I don't think the slide made it in here, I gave resources for the 3 months that are happening this month. So in the chat, you saw there was the AAPI, and let me just make sure that, and then there was the Jewish History Month, and it's also Pride Month, LGBTQ, and the DOE put out Hidden Voices. We sent it out to all of our high schools to engage in these wonderful, wonderful lessons and curriculum. So I shared it in the chat. I apologize. For some reason, it got left out of the slide that I sent this afternoon. This is our showcase, our June 17th. This is just what we were talking about, where the students will present. And that's the Friday before June 20th. And then we have a monthly sway that we are proud of and share with you here. It just gives you everything that's happening in all of our schools. And I think you have access to it. I'm sure you get copies of it. If you don't, let me know. And I think that is it for me. I will take questions, but thank you. As always, it is really a pleasure to be here with all of you. And I am just grateful to be in the space as the Brooklyn North High School Superintendent. And I'm going to stop sharing. Let me see.
Okay, public comments and questions, please raise your hand if you're a member of the public. Anyone from the public first? No, let's move to CEC. Camille.
Thank you so much. I know it's me who was asking the million questions about the L students, and thank you for all of that.
No problem. You're welcome.
I just wanted to ask about the two schools that are close to or above 50% of L students. What is that happening for a specific reason? Are there a lot of L programs in those two schools that families and students are choosing those schools? Is it because of the location? I guess I'm wondering, since high schools are open enrollment and families can choose, and L students do receive some sort of seat priority, right?
So
much of a cluster in those two schools.
The L students in Sunset Park in that community has consistently been, that's always been sort of where we are. We're a little higher. We saw an influx of students during COVID, and also some of the students that were coming into New York and just the country. CASA actually on that campus had a large influx of students. And that was more a lot of the over-the-counter students. They had seats open, and there were the need for those students in District 15. So I don't think it's anything specific. I think it's just what we've been seeing in the wave of our L populations growing, where the young people are coming into our communities, and they're being supported in different areas. But the Sunset Park has been something that, I think they regularly have just been community-wise, and lots of times with our L students, it's, I know for me as a former principal in School for Classics, I would get somebody's cousin, brother, sister, right? So if it's working and you've made that connection, then there is a repeat of individuals wanting to go to that school. So we see a lot of that, and that brings in, some of the numbers that grow. So it's not necessarily maybe the one or two that come in, but then it could be somebody else that's coming in from the family and say, hey, this is a great school. And then it's just something that happens, and then it moves forward. And we love that, right? We want that. We want to make sure that the school feels welcome and affirming. But nothing specific, Camille, or anything. And I have to tell you about priority. I'm not sure in terms of, unless it's a bilingual program or a specific program that the student is needing, but not like, so you're talking about a priority for coming into a building with a service. Is that what you're saying? Based on what their services are.
No, I guess I was actually thinking that they should have some sort of priority.
So when you do your high school applications, or when they're coming in as over the counter?
High school application.
Okay, so for high school applications, I think that you choose the schools based on the needs of your student, of your child, right? And then there's specific programs that have. So yeah, so like if you wanted the bilingual program, not all of our high schools have a bilingual program. So then you're picking those based on, and there is that. So, but I thought you were talking about over the counter, because over the counter students come in, and we do our best to work with the enrollment center to make sure that if a child's coming in and they have, a need for a strictly bilingual program, and that's not something we can offer, I'll work with the enrollment center and say this school or that school, or, things like that. So, but I think that, yeah, so if there's anything else, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move forward? Thank you so much, Superintendent Ross. Let's move forward to resolutions now.
Camille, I'm going to share the screen.
Okay, thank you. So we have a number of resolutions on the agenda today to discuss, all of which we will seek public feedback for. I would ask if one of our members would be willing to read this particular resolution to support the appointment of a superintendent. Are there any volunteers?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Make it a little bit larger for me. Okay. So I will start CEC15 resolution to support the appointment of a superintendent, whereas for the reasons set forth below, CEC15 hereby resolves to support the appointment of Anita Scott to superintendent of District 15, whereas Anita Scott has been the superintendent of District 15 for 13 years, whereas Ms. Scott is a person of great character. She is responsive, thoughtful, and compassionate. Whereas Ms. Scott is known for her gratitude and is vocal about the privilege that she has and uses it to advocate for others. Whereas Ms. Scott has built trust by creating access for school community members to join in small group sessions that she entitled Soup with the Soup. This is one of the many ways that she has created safe space for historically marginalized communities to have their voices heard over the loudest voices and those with power. Whereas in doing the challenging work of growing integrated schools, Ms. Scott takes responsibility for her decisions, recognizes when she has made a mistake, and is accountable for her actions. Because of these qualities, the Mural Justice Project supports Anita Scott's reinstatement, whereas Ms. Scott has always been steadfast in her convictions to support the whole child and create pathways and opportunities for all children, whereas District 15 could not be as strong a district if not for the guidance, collaboration, and leadership of Ms. Scott, who is available to us at all times of the day and night. She always makes time to explore and implement new ideas with encouraging words, putting what's best for children first. Whereas Ms. Scott is known for bringing people together, she meets regularly with school administrators, teachers, parents, and students, and is always available, never shying away from a challenging situation. Whereas Ms. Scott created equity teams in our district to develop a foundation for the deep work necessary to support the integration of our schools. The collaborative work she fostered is the key to much of this district's success. Whereas Ms. Scott also created youth equity teams at each school to give space for student voice. She meets with representatives from these student teams monthly to discuss issues that are important to them and makes changes where students want to see improvements. Many schools adopted advisory periods and have had great success. Whereas Ms. Scott has an ongoing commitment to support restorative practices, she has brought in experienced professionals and encouraged the hiring of school staff to work with our children and communities during inevitable times of conflict. She explains why it's important to have these practices in place to restore balance and to help students reacclimate. Explains how to implement and gives school communities the voice and the opportunity to do this work. Whereas Ms. Scott has single-handedly brought about an evident change in the thinking and the mindset of this district and understanding the importance and value of heterogeneous classrooms, not only to aid with inclusion and integration, but to increase academic and socio-emotional outcomes for every child. Ongoing efforts to ensure the district respects all identities, races, and cultures is something that Anita Scott was doing long before the DOE implemented respect for all. Whereas Superintendent Scott does not work in a silo, handing out orders, she is a team player, a great communicator, and very transparent. She has a history of working together with CEC15 and with other CECs in the city. She regularly speaks at community board meetings and is known throughout our very large community district. She is naturally inclusive and willing to share information, including schools and conversations that are not part of her oversight, i.e. charter school principals are invited to monthly principals conferences. Whereas Ms. Scott has a history of including the community in decisions that affect our district and centers children in her work. Her history of effective collaborative leadership has pushed desegregation work forward at all costs and models this work for others. Whereas Superintendent Scott's work embodies each of the Chancellor's 4 pillars: scaling, sustaining, and restoring what works, prioritizing wellness and its link to student success, reimagining the student experience, and empowering families to be our true partners. Whereas during Superintendent Scott's tenure, she has secured and targeted grants toward foundational and innovative academic supports, project-based learning, CRSE, and wellness, open schools that reimagine the student experience, and led our district through innovative parent engagement processes. Whereas Superintendent Scott's achievements include removal of attendance screens and letters of recommendation from middle school admissions, coordination and implementation of the District 15 Diversity Plan, creation and implementation of the PAR team rezoning, a 2-year effort during a pandemic to integrate our elementary schools in the northern part of our district, allowing opportunities for choice between 6 elementary schools that are all within walking distance of each other, 4 of which were deeply segregated. Redesign of an elementary school to become the Harbor Middle School, allowing for community voice and interest to lead the progress, and rezoning the advantages available to the school due to the location being so close to the Red Hook waterfront. Creation and implementation of the Sunset Park PAR team, creation and implementation of the District Equity Congress, hosting monthly meetings and sessions with the Minor Collective and other esteemed presenters such as Dr. Eddie Fergus, who does disproportionality work, mandated school-based equity teams to allow all community members a space to rethink all aspects of school culture and curriculum to ensure that our schools are inclusive to all. Developed a Youth Equity Congress, bringing together students from every school in the district to discuss best practices, to support each other, and to collectively find solutions to problems. These students were also offered valuable training in how to share and present the information to their fellow students, and have been invited to school leadership team meetings to participate in conversations around school-based decisions, and offered opportunities to district and school staff and courageous conversations, LGBTQ support, and supported the creation of CRSE curriculum and libraries long before the DOE was working on this at a central level. Whereas during her time as superintendent, Anita Scott oversaw the creation and opening of these new schools where she chose dynamic, capable leaders to support student outcomes. Little Pre-K Center, MS 839, PS 896, Harbor Middle School opening in the fall of 2022, and PS 958 opening in the fall of 2022 as a new inclusive school that will provide support for students with ASD. Whereas mentorships for new principals were created, Ms. Scott meets with new principals regularly to support them in their first few transitional years. Whereas Superintendent Scott also sourced, hired, and positioned 16 new principals at the following schools: PS 24, PS 38, PS 39, PS 107, PS 124, PS 130, PS 131, PS 136, PS 146, PS 154, PS 172, PS 261, IS 497, PS 676, MS 839, PS 896. Whereas Anita Scott is not just a superintendent to this district, she is an advocate, a creator, and a visionary who is helping to grow the future leaders and citizens of our society. She is helping children see themselves as the future. Therefore, be it resolved that CEC15 formally recommends that the Chancellor appoint Anita Scott to the role of Superintendent of District 15.
Thank you. We will open this up for, I believe we do public comments or questions first. We're doing the actual vote today, right? Sharing, I can't see the screen. Okay, Elton Dodson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you to the CEC for all the work that you do for our community. It's very much appreciated. It's such an amazing group of people. I just wanted to say, if my job is ever in jeopardy, I hope the CEC will write something for me. That was amazing, descriptive, and there's not much that I could possibly add to that, except for my personal experiences as a parent of 3 children that are in District 15 or one who has graduated from it, and as the executive director of an education nonprofit that advocates for our kids in the district, the Real Justice Project. I don't have to go over the past almost decade and a half of service that Superintendent Scott has given this community selflessly and with an amazing amount of skill, but as the resolution and the CEC has indicated, the willingness to be collaborative with her community, to be open to both comment and criticism, and most importantly in a leader, the ability to pivot when that criticism is valid and impactful to our students. I've said this several times over the past few weeks, but the Neural Justice Project and the community around it that created it, you know, we had our differences with the superintendent, and we had our adversarial feelings about the DOE. Not that those have gone away, the DOE is a large animal, but to our great surprise, Anita listened to us in what were very often very contentious meetings in which she could have had her pride hurt, she could have responded with ego, she could have responded by placing her own self-preservation first, but at no point did she ever do that. She stopped, she paused, she thought, at least from my perception, what is best for our community, what best serves our kids, what makes us whole from some of the things that have befallen us, not just COVID, but some of the controversies, including, as you may have heard, the takedown of a beautiful mural that was created over 14 weeks by our students at PS 295 and the New Voices building. And the healing that we have received in this community has come from numerous sources, but we couldn't have done it in the way we have without the leadership of our superintendent. And in the many years that I've been involved in politics and advocacy and nonprofit campaigns, I've learned to not expect this kind of selfless leadership from the government, but particularly not from someone who has been in the government for so long that you would expect them to be entrenched in that sort of implacable sort of static thinking. But instead, she has shown the ability to redefine her leadership for the times and for the challenges that our children face. And I can say this with complete honesty, as a former elected person myself, I have never respected someone in a position of power over my children's lives the way I do Anita Scott. I'm not always going to agree with her. I'm sure we can think of things right now, Anita, that I disagree with you right now. But the fact of the matter is that you're going to listen to me when I tell you those things. Not only are you going to listen to them, but when we can come to an agreement or a compromise on what's best for our kids, you're going to do something about it. And that's what you're doing for us right now. So I have put the petition back in the chat again. Thank you so much for your leadership. And I wish you the best of luck in your interview tomorrow. And I hope to see you again in the new school year.
Thank you, Elton. Very insightful, very helpful to the conversation. Would anyone else like to ask a question or give a comment? CEC members, any questions or comments? Okay, let's close the comments.
I'd like to move to vote on this resolution.
I'll second.
I'll second. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry.
I'll call the roll. Camille Cazzaretti,
I approve.
Antonia Ferraro, yes, I approve enthusiastically. Tia Shellsteed,
Approve.
Vincent Liu,
Approve.
Nana Poku Ajakum,
Yes, I approve.
Alfred had to leave to pick up his child, but he did say he did approve the resolutions. Unfortunately, his vote can't be recorded because he's not on the call. Joseph Alexander,
Approve.
Yvonne Bonda,
I approve. Thank you.
Nancy Randall,
Approve.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka,
I approve.
and Nakia Muhasa Brown.
I approve.
The resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you. Joe, do you want to read the comments in the chat from Maria Diaz?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Superintendent Scott has been very supportive of our school community. She has ensured that the district team provides us with support necessary to ensure that our students grow both academically and socially and emotionally. Throughout the pandemic, we have suffered a lot of loss, and Superintendent Scott has always been there for our students and staff. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So we'll finalize the copy of this resolution and make sure that Deputy Chancellor Blackburn receives it tomorrow prior to the C37 process. So thank you all for your support, and Anita, thank you for staying. I'm glad that you stayed to hear all of this. How much
Thank
we
you.
love
I am going to leave now. I was going to leave in the middle of it because it's emotional for me. But thank you, everybody. And I wish you only the best and have a great night. And we go forward no matter what.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next resolution, and I'll just give a recap because I know people are wondering what the schedule is. Maybe somebody could drop the agenda in the chat, please. So we are going to discuss a resolution to support fair salary increases for the NYC DOE occupational and physical therapists. We reviewed this draft resolution at our last meeting, and there were some edits made, and so we're going to look at a final draft tonight and hopefully vote on that. Then we are going to look at a resolution to fund a certified librarian in every NYC public school. We also had reviewed that at a previous meeting, and so this will be a vote. And then lastly, resolution on district leadership team composition and open meeting law requirements, which we reviewed at our last meeting and will take feedback and then vote on as well. Then we have a vote on our bylaws, old business, new business, general public comment, and a discussion and vote on the superintendent evaluation, at which point I will make a motion to go into an executive session because matters of personnel relating to this evaluation are not really for the public, and we will come out of the executive session and then report back on what we discussed in summary. So, okay, so then the next resolution that we're going to discuss is resolution to support fair salary increases for NYC DOE occupational and physical therapists. Do I have a volunteer to read this resolution? Anyone?
Sure. I'll volunteer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Are you able to increase it? Thank you. Resolution to support fair salary increases for NYC DOE occupational and physical therapists. Whereas the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, identifies occupational and physical therapy as related services for eligible children ages 3 to 21 who require assistance to benefit from a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. Whereas the New York City Department of Education provides school-based occupational and physical therapy both in District 75, which provides citywide services for students with disabilities, and in general education school settings. Whereas occupational and physical therapy services are provided by New York State licensed therapists, students mandated to receive such services as designated on their individualized educational plans, IEPs. Whereas occupational therapy is designed to maintain, improve, or restore function of students in all education-related activities, including neuromusculoskeletal function, motor function, including fine motor, oral motor, and visual motor integration, sensory and perceptual function, cognitive and psychosocial function. Whereas activities emphasize independence and daily living skills and school participation in various settings, including classroom, bathroom, cafeteria, and playground. Whereas physical therapy emphasizes physical function of gross motor skills and independence in different settings. Whereas physical therapists increase a student's ability to participate in various school functions by remediating or compensating for musculoskeletal, neuromuscular, or cardiopulmonary impairments. Whereas physical therapists employ various techniques to treat conditions that affect body structure and function, suggesting adaptations to physical tasks, recommending assistive devices, and adapting the environment. Whereas occupational and physical therapists, OTs, PTs, bring a variety of additional benefits to our students and communities, helping children with disabilities succeed in their education and ultimately helping them to lead meaningful and productive lives. Whereas while OT-PT salaries start out higher than peers, they are soon overtaken and the total accumulation is surpassed. At 10 years, the salary difference is $7 to $16,000, and at the top of the pay is $7 to $16,000. And at the top of the pay scale, the disparity between comparable DOE positions is $20 to $26,000 a year. Whereas OTs and PTs receive a salary increase of $2,322 per year for earning a master's degree, while other similar professionals within the DOE receive $7,040. Whereas other DOE professionals are paid per session when work duties extend past normal hours, for example, to meet with parents, to review students' learning plans. But OTs, PTs must volunteer their time or miss these crucial opportunities to collaborate on how to best serve their students. This is clearly demonstrated with IEP meetings that are scheduled outside of OT-PT work hours. Whereas these conditions impact the ability of OT-PTs to give as much to children in public schools as they would like. Whereas OT-PTs are frequently denied classrooms and must conduct therapy in unsuitable spaces like storage closets and hallways. And whereas OT-PTs have a 30-minute unpaid lunch as opposed to the 50-minute paid lunch granted to other DOE staff. Therefore, be it resolved that in valuing the work and essential support of New York City DOE occupational and physical therapists, these dedicated professionals deserve and will receive fair treatment and compensation. And be it further resolved that in every school throughout New York City, the Division of Space Planning and the Office of Facilities will collectively identify an OT-PT room on the principal annual space survey that will provide appropriate space and necessary equipment for the OT-PT staff to provide essential support to our children.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll open it up for public comments or questions. I think we can we just do CEC and public on this since we've discussed it so much?
The only thing I would add, if I may, is where it says $7 to 60. I think you mean to say $7,000 to $16,000 and $20,000 to $26,000, right? It just looks funny, and when it was read,
Thank you. I was confused on that
it's
too.
stuck out as awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just change that.
I'm just gonna correct that. All right, so does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to vote.
Okay.
Second.
All right, Camille, how do you vote?
I approve.
Hold on, my screen is, okay. My screen is frozen. Hold on a second.
Do you want me to do it?
Are you in the document? Because it's frozen on my end.
Yeah. I am, I can do it. Do you want to call the names or you want me to do it?
I can do it now. All right, Tia Shelstead, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vincent Liu?
I approve.
Okay. Nana Poku Ajakum?
I approve.
Joseph Alexander?
Approve.
Yvonne Bonda?
Approve.
Nancy Randall?
Approve.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka?
I approve.
and Nakia Muhasa Brown.
I approve.
And the resolution passes unanimously. I'll share the screen for the next resolution.
Okay, Antonia, did you want to read it or I can read
Sure,
it?
sure, I can read it.
Yes, thank you, Judith. Thank you for being here. And thank you for answering our questions last time and being available this time to answer as well.
Thank you so much for your support. I'm gonna leave now, but thank you. I really appreciate all of you.
As soon as it's ready to go out. Okay, so resolution to fund a certified librarian in every New York City public school. The District 15 Community Education, oh wait, no, let's skip that. Whereas for the reasons set forth, okay, let's just go down. Whereas librarians are no longer a given in our public schools and their salaries are not funded by our city or state. Whereas underfunded schools are cutting certified librarian positions at an alarming rate. New York City has lost 2/3 of its school librarians since 2005, dropping from 1,500 to around 450 in 2022. Whereas librarian loss is an equity issue, our most vulnerable student populations, including students in poverty and ESL, ELL learners, are being affected by librarian loss firsthand and hardest at a rate of up to 2 times more. Whereas the benefits associated with strong library programs are the greatest for our most vulnerable student populations, including students in poverty, students with disabilities, students of color, and ESL, ELL learners. Whereas librarians promote diverse learning by creating collections in which all students may see themselves and others. Whereas in New York City, state mandates regarding libraries and librarians in our public middle and high schools are unfunded and often ignored, with many schools repurposing libraries into classrooms, computer rooms, and meeting spaces. And there is currently no mandate for librarians in public elementary schools. Whereas early literacy is critical and students who are not proficient in reading by 3rd grade experience compounded learning losses in all areas and are up to 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. Whereas as many as 24 schools in District 15 do not have a certified librarian on staff, some may have a staff member untrained in library science acting as a de facto librarian type figure. Whereas the following schools did not have a certified school librarian on staff as of December 2021. PS 24, PS 38, PS 39, PS 58, PS 94, PS 107, PS 118, PS 124, PS 130, PS 154, PS 169, PS 172, PS 230, PS 261, PS 295, PS 321, MS 442, MS 443, MS 447, PS 516, High School of the Arts, PS 676, which will become the Harbor Middle School in September 2022, MS 839, and PS 896. Whereas more than 60 studies show that certified librarians in our schools boost equity, literacy outcomes, research skills, graduation rates, and test scores. Whereas librarians do not just check out books, they are highly trained professionals who support the work of classroom teachers, create a school-wide information hub, teach valuable research skills, and promote critical thinking and child-led inquiry. Today's, so we change that to children and not say kids, are faced with endless information technology and need to learn how to access and evaluate information safely. Whereas the ability to read and learn to read is a right, and supporting literacy in all ways in schools is a social justice issue. All children deserve equal access to literacy and information. Whereas many children do not come from homes filled with books and are not able to visit public libraries, a school library is their best, sometimes only chance to interact with a robust collection of complementary books in an inviting space helmed by a trained expert. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has heightened literacy loss across the U.S. and many children are in crisis, and whereas the classroom reading experience is different from the library experience, classroom reading can be a mixed experience with negative feelings relating to performance, reading levels, and restrictive book bins. Students need both a classroom library and a separate school library to promote autonomy and self-paced pleasure reading. Contributors to a self-paced pleasure reading, contributors to a child's reading and academic success. Something, or am I just reading it wrong?
I think maybe it's just which are contributors.
Okay. Therefore, be it resolved that the New York State Legislature enact a bill ensuring that certified librarian is a funded mandate in every New York City public school to be enacted and enforced as a specified line item in each school's budget. There's nothing else, right? That was it.
I think that comedies, yeah.
Okay. Let's open this up to comments and questions.
I believe the authors of the resolution are here,
Yeah, I saw them.
and they can take the questions as they come.
Yes, Nakia.
I was just wondering the paragraph that, can you stop right there where it says, whereas the classroom reading experience is different from the library, where Camille paused. Should that be self-paced pleasure reading? I was just wondering if that's
Yeah.
typo.
The
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense.
Yeah, okay.
Good catch. Any other questions or comments? Yvonne?
It's just a little personal experience as a comment. As a young immigrant in the early 80s, I arrived in San Francisco in California, and one of the first things that I did was to go get a library card. And you will not believe my surprise when the librarian told me, yeah, you can take it home 2 weeks. I was like, what? I mean, because all my life, I mean, in my country, I mean, you went to the library, you read the book there, you grab it, you touch it, and you put it back. You know? So ever since, every city that I lived, Washington, D.C., and then in New York, I mean, always found library being such a immense source of for many things, not only for immigrants, because, you know, ESL classes and all that, but it's just that it's a little bit hurtful that our schools don't have a library. You know, it's just it's something that I don't know. I mean, we have such a great system in the city, and everywhere that I go, I always talk about the libraries in New York City. You know, but not having one in the school, I mean, you know, and it's difficult to to process. That's just a personal thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
Hi, I agree with your sentiments completely, Ivan. I'm going to talk about, I just want to talk about the media literacy component of what librarians do. Well, first, let me introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Farrington. I'm a journalist here in New York City, and I've written all over the place from New York Times to Elle Magazine, and I got my start in journalism as a fact checker, and I've headed up the departments at Elle and Us Weekly, ironically, which had a very robust fact checking department. And I'm here as a media, media veteran, as a parent to a first grader in District 15, and as a citizen who thinks that media literacy is an urgent matter. And so given that librarians are tasked with equipping our young learners with the skills they need to navigate the sea of misinformation out there, their role is more important and critical than ever before. And because, without the media literacy training that they provide our students, faulty facts and beliefs go unchecked, stoking divisiveness, and as we've seen, creating hazards to our public, to our individual and collective health, and as we've also seen, destabilizing our democracy. So for all those reasons, I'm very happy that you'll get to see these well-researched and beautifully composed slides that Jenny Fox put together to illuminate why every school in District 15 deserves and critically needs a librarian. So I'll hand it over to Jenny.
So Vanessa had asked me to expound just a little bit on the media literacy piece. So Vanessa, I don't know if you can share the slides. I can just go through really quickly about that particular piece of the librarian issue. Okay, we can go ahead to the first slide. I'll just kind of recap and you can kind of read along, but there's a lot going on, obviously, for kids with media. And when most of us grew up, media was print media, sometimes TV, radio, but now we have the internet, which is kind of a game changer. So it's like a paralyzing amount of information for kids to consider and for kids to process. We can go to the next slide. So they're calling our kids sort of the YouTube generation, and there's some new facts out that approximately 2/3 of high school kids can't distinguish between news stories and ads when they were shown a Slate homepage, even though it said sponsored content. 31% of children are self-reporting that they've shared an article they later learned was false information. And of course, all of the screen time is just amped up, especially since the pandemic. Go to the next slide. So they're also lacking a lot of basic research skills. So they're getting to college not prepared. 2/3, a Library Journal study found that 2/3 of, well, it says fewer than one student, first-year student, was prepared to successfully complete a college-level research project. And this is a nationwide problem. And even though they lack the research skills, they have false confidence because they feel like they're able to find information, but they don't know the difference between good information and bad information. Next slide, please. So the media literacy piece is that we need children to be able to decode media messages, to assess the influences those messages on thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and to create their own media thoughtfully and conscientiously. So basically they need to be able to vet the information coming to them and also learn to become good digital citizens. We can go to the next slide. This is interesting. I think people should know this because a lot of people are either confused about this point or don't know this. that a certified school librarian's official title is a school library media specialist. I've actually had people tell me that they're different things and that the DOE will only hire one and not the other and that sort of thing. That is a school librarian. That's what they're called these days. And they have a master's degree in library and information science. They're also uniquely trained as one of the few people in the school that has these skills. And then they can provide, they play a prominent role in instructing not just the students, but also other faculty and even administration in these different forms of literacy, both in print and digital. Okay, next slide, please. So these are some of the skills that librarians are already teaching our children: media literacy skills, using technology to share and organize information, critical thinking, being a good digital citizen, researching and using a variety of sources, and evaluating the credibility of sources. Okay, next. Some sample lessons. So this also needs to be happening even in elementary school, because once the kids are getting to middle school and high school, they need to already have these ways of thinking in place. So some simple lessons that you might do with like a kid in elementary school. This is one from our former librarian, Lauren. Help save the endangered Pacific Northwest tree octopus. The kids are given this information. They have to decide if it's true or false, what information is making them think it's not right, what information might be tricking them. And you'd be surprised that some of them think that the tree octopus is real. And here's another lesson from Stephanie's program about Ariana Grande and evaluating polls and numbers from a source, which turns out to be Ariana Grande's fan club, and whether or not kids should feel like that's good information or they're getting kind of tricked. So we really need to be doing this, like even in elementary school, introducing the idea that like you can't believe everything that you read, especially off the internet, but anywhere really. Next slide, please. There was a big report in 2020 by Teachers College Center for Educational Equity and issued by the Democracy Ready New York, stating that New York is remiss in failing to equip schools to help students meet existing media literacy education standards, particularly in districts that predominantly serve low-income students and students of color, stressing the internet has become the new public square and that to be democracy ready, all students must be media literate. And one of the recommendations was that all schools be staffed with school library media specialists, which are librarians. It also recommends professional development and even adding a course for all ninth graders.
Yeah.
So I think we just wanted to expound a little bit on this media literacy piece, because the first part of the presentation was more about general literacy, and there were some questions about this. Thank you. Sorry. Some water.
Okay. Lauren. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lauren Harrison. I am formerly the librarian at PS 261. I worked with Danielle and Jenny, and it was, it was crushing to not be there this year because there's no budget for a school librarian. But I just wanted to say I find a lot that people think the librarian just sort of stands there with a scanner checking out books, but it's a full class. It's a 50-minute period where maybe the last 10 to 15 minutes, the kids get time to look for books. But we do, starting in third grade, we start talking about digital citizenship and things as simple as making a password. What information should you share online? Because it's fortunate or unfortunate, however you think of it, kids are online a lot more than they used to be. So in addition to, trying to expose them to all different kinds of literature and make sure each kid has equal access to books, the digital literacy is a crucial piece that I know I and all fellow school librarians in New York City were constantly attending professional developments. And there's a robust group led by Melissa Jacobs, who's wonderful with resources. June 7th, we have an all-day professional development about digital literacy. So it's really a lot more than, just checking out books. Just wanted to make sure everyone understood that. And thank you, Jenny and Danielle.
I think also tying into what Superintendent Scott was saying, this is a piece of where our children are learning how to interact with each other. There's a lot of trouble that's starting online. There's a lot of kids being led down paths of misinformation that's creating hatred or joining bad groups. And I think this type of thing, it is a very critical piece of this librarian issue as well, that we just wanted to make sure we were highlighting, because I think, and especially, I don't think the classroom teachers right now are getting a lot in the way of professional development in this area. And I think the librarians are getting more of that. And then they can help also share that information with the classroom teachers. And I think really everyone should be on this right now, but especially this is not the time to not have librarians in our schools.
Definitely not.
Okay, let's move forward with the resolution.
I'll make a motion to vote on the resolution.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, Camille, how do you vote?
I approve.
Antonia Ferraro, yes, I approve. Tia Shelstead?
Approve.
Vincent Liu?
I approve.
Nana Poku Ajakum?
I approve.
Joseph Alexander?
I approve.
Yvonne Banda?
I approve.
Nancy Randall?
Approve.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka?
I approve.
And Nakia Muhasa Brown?
I approve.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you guys for coming and presenting on that. That was really great.
Thank you. Okay, so the next resolution on the table is the resolution on district leadership team composition and open meetings law requirements. And I can tell you that there is already a Senate bill, an Assembly bill, highlighting what our ask is here in this resolution. And so thank you to everybody here on the call in District 15 that was advocating for this. It may happen if they vote yes. Hopefully it will, but does anybody else want to take a shot at reading the resolution?
I'll read it. Resolution on district leadership team composition and open meetings law requirements. Whereas the New York State Education Department section 100.11 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education requires school districts to develop and adopt a district plan for the participation by teachers and parents with administrators and school board members in school-based planning and shared decision-making. Whereas in New York City, each community school district has its own team known as the District Leadership Team, DLT. Whereas DLTs collaborate, oh, sorry, I have to admit somebody. Whereas DLTs collaboratively create the District Comprehensive Education Plan, DCEP, which guides the district and impacts upwards of 1 million New York City students. Whereas per the NYC DOE Chancellor's Regulation A655, the required members of the DLT are community superintendent or designee, high school superintendents responsible for high schools that are geographically located within the district or designees, CSA representative, UFT representative, DC37 representative, president of the district's president's council or designee, president of the borough high school president's council or designee, chairperson of the Title I District Parent Advisory Council or designee. Whereas community-based organizations or CBOs, the president of the district CEC or designee, and a member of the citywide council on high schools whose child attends a high school geographically located within the district also may be included on the DLT, whereas some districts choose to include representatives of community-based organizations, the president of the district CEC, and a member of the citywide council on high schools, where others do not. Whereas the chancellor's regulations A655 and the DLT's bylaws help guide and support DLTs. Whereas due to COVID-19 social distancing requirements, the chancellor has provided guidance for DLT meetings to be scheduled and held virtually with access by phone or video conferencing. Whereas superintendents are encouraged to welcome parents to observe DLT meetings so that they are aware of the priorities of the district and how decisions are made. Whereas superintendents can promote these meetings on their district website through parent leadership bodies and or via emails to parents and the entire district. Whereas DLTs were not included in the court case decision for school leadership teams to operate under open meetings law. Whereas although DOE guidance suggests that DLTs be open to the public, most DLTs still remain closed. Whereas community education councils and citywide councils are not included as voting members in Chancellor's Reg A655. Therefore, be it resolved that required members for each DLT include the president or designated representative of the district CEC, and where CEC members are invited guests, resolve that a designee from each 4 citywide councils, CCHS, CCEL, CCSE, CCD75, can actively participate as members at large in DLT meetings, and resolve that minutes from DLT meetings be publicly posted and shared with CECs and citywide councils. And be it further resolved that DLTs follow open meetings law in the same manner that school leadership teams follow the law. Okay. Joe, do you want to open it up to public comment?
Yeah, sorry, I was reading the. This is open for public comment. Thank you. Last call for public comment. CEC members. No comments or questions? Okay.
I'll make a motion to vote on the resolution.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Camille, how do you vote?
I approve.
Antonia Ferraro, I approve. Tia Shellsteed,
Approve.
Vincent Liu,
Approve.
Nana Poku Ajakum,
Approve.
Joseph Alexander,
Approve.
Ivan Banda,
I approve.
Nancy Randall,
Approve.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka,
I approve.
and Nakia Muhasa Brown.
I approve.
Okay, and the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. And, all right, so the next item on the agenda is a bylaws amendment. It's very simple, just one line being added to our bylaws to form an equity committee. This has basically been born from our ad hoc diversity committee, and we feel like we like the direction that the diversity committee was going in, but would like to just expand it to be a permanent committee rather than ad hoc, and wanted to call it an equity committee because it felt like it encompasses more. Is that right, Nancy?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we're literally just adding these two words. And does anybody from the public have a comment or feedback? I don't see any hands up. We still have 32 people on the call. Any CEC have a comment? Okay, with no hands being raised, I will make a motion to vote.
I'll second the motion. And Camille, how do you vote?
I approve.
Antonia Ferraro, I approve. Tia Shelstead?
Approve.
Vincent Liu?
Approved.
Nana Poku Rajakum?
I approve.
Joseph Alexander?
Approve.
Yvonne Bonda?
I approve.
Nancy Randall?
Approve.
Vanessa Gonzalez Juoka?
I approve.
Nikki Hassa Brown?
I approve.
And the resolution passes unanimously. Not resolution, but the change to the bylaws amendment passes. Okay, we have now finished the resolution portion.
Okay, and the vote. So next is old business. Does anybody have any old business that they want to discuss? Okay, I didn't have any part of our standard agenda, so I didn't want to skip over it. Okay, so new business, just quickly, we have a budget deadline for our CEC budget and for member reimbursements. So if anybody has anything that they need reimbursed, all receipts must be submitted by June 11th, and we have to have a final vote on June 14th if we want to try to transfer any of the remaining funds over to the district. Superintendent Scott had requested money for books for schools. This is something that we have done in the past. Just wanted to put that out there for you all to think about. And does anybody else have any new business they want to discuss? So then we'll just move to general public comment, and this is a point in our meeting where any member of the public can give feedback on anything in particular. Feel free to raise your hand. And I'll ask if one of our council members could please drop in the chat the survey that we sent out for feedback on the superintendent performance, which we are using to submit with the superintendent evaluation. So that could, you could still share information in that link at any point between now and tomorrow, 3 p.m. Do you have the link?
Camille, it's going to take me a while to pull that up.
It was in the script up higher up.
Was it?
I just sent it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any hands up. So then at this point, I will make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters relating to the superintendent evaluation. Members of the public are not permitted to attend executive sessions. We will put everybody into the waiting room and bring you back in when we are finished with the executive session. But this will be the last item on our agenda this evening. So if you are planning to leave, I will bid you a wonderful evening. And thank you so much for being here. So many dedicated people on this call. We really appreciate you. So at this point, so it's 9:10, and I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, so we'll do a vote.
Oh, okay. Camille, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Antonia, yes. Tia?
Yes.
Vincent Liu?
Yes.
Nana Poku Ajakum?
Yes.
Joseph Alexander?
Yes.
Ivan Banda?
Yes.
Nancy Randall?
Yes.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka?
Yes.
And Nakia Muhasa Brown?
Yes.
Okay, we're going into executive session. So we're going to stop the recording.
Hey everyone, we are out of the executive session. We're just letting everybody back in from the waiting room. All, and they are joining. It is now 9:38 p.m. and we discussed the superintendent evaluation in our executive session, and we are now going to vote to share the evaluation with Superintendent Scott and with DC Blackburn. I'd like to make a motion to vote on superintendent evaluation. Is there a second?
A second.
Yeah, thank you. I just also want to note that Alfred has rejoined us. Thank you. So he'll be here for the vote as well. Yeah, could you call the roll, please? You're muted.
Sorry, Camille, how do you vote? Antonia Ferraro, I vote yes. Tia Shelstein?
Yes.
Vincent Liu?
Yes.
Nana Poku Ajakum?
Yes.
Alfred DeIngenis?
Yes.
And Joseph Alexander?
Oh, yes.
Ivan Banda?
Yes. Approved.
Nancy Randall?
Yes.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka?
I approve.
And Nakia Muhasa Brown?
Yes.
Okay, we will present this this evaluation to Superintendent Scott and DC Blackburn. And the Chancellor.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody. It is now 9:40, and I want to thank our interpretation team and everybody who stayed on the call. We appreciate you. I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting and hope to see you all on June 14th, which is our next business.
Hey.
Great night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Night.